I was able to make it work.
Cool.
So what's up? You want to talk about the Bible?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious, like, why you don't believe in the Bible. I mean, I know you said it was a book, but like what makes you think that like what the Bible claims is true is false or not, like not accurate, I guess.
Why is my camera's there we go. Okay, well, because I mean, I don't have any way to verify. He's much louder than me. Okay, I have no way to verify whether any of that stuff is true, unless I can, test specific things, right? So, I mean, if you want, you can name a claim, and I can tell you whether. But I mean, if we're talking about the Bible itself, it was written by like a bunch of people over a very long time, and I mean the oldest copy that we have is something like 800 years ago. So like that, and not to mention the fact that it's broken itself, or that Christianity has broken itself into like thousands of denominations, all believing that they are the true Christians. So it's like, I believe that the Bible exists and that it makes a lot of claims that can be argued have historical bases, but then you're going to have to like answer the question like whose Bible's right and which version of the Bible is right and which translation is right. You know what I'm saying? So if I was just to go to a hotel and get the Bible from the Gideons and open it up, like I have no basis for understanding that that is real or the truth. Right?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. So just to make sure that I have this correct, you believe that the translations could possibly be false?
Not necessarily.
Or like
I think
that
that's one of many factors that contribute to my distrust of the validity of the Bible.
Okay. So you have a hard time trusting the Bible, correct?
Yes.
Or like just saying that it's true?
I have a hard time trusting that things that are written in the Bible is true.
Okay, so then let me ask you this. Do you believe that Jesus was a real person?
Potentially. I think we've established that Jesus very well could have existed.
Okay.
That a man named Jesus existed at some point.
Okay, so then what in the Bible could you say that doesn't line up with the history that we know of today?
The size and scope of the flood, the size and scope of the ark, the animals that went onto the ark, accounting for space and for dimensions in physics. I just added that word in there. I'm assuming that that's the science that would apply there. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I think it would be physics, right? If you're trying to account for like volume and weight and all that kind of shit. I think it's.
I believe so. I think it might be geometry would be a little bit better, but
okay, yeah, there you go. But either way, the point that I'm trying to make is just that there's a lot of claims that the Earth, that the Bible also claims that the Earth is flat and covered with a transparent dome, which I also don't agree with.
Where in the Bible does it say that? Because I'm just curious.
Let's see if I can find it. I don't know the Bible. It is just I've seen people pull up the passages that it's in. Bible.
Okay, because I'll just let you know now that I don't believe that the Earth is flat. So.
Okay. Well, neither do I. So we're in agreement on that.
I should probably kind of give like my stance, because I've just been asking questions. You kind of don't know like where I stand on this whole thing.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
So just so that way you understand like where I'm coming from, and you kind of like understand that I'm not just asking questions to ask questions. They're
sure.
Like I'm genuinely curious like why you believe that. So at the place that I am right now, I would classify myself under the Christian category, but I'm not
Mhm.
like your typical Christian where you try to where like they're just kind of like shove it down your throat type thing, you know.
Mhm.
I don't ever want to force anybody to listen to what I have to say about the Bible. Because if they don't want to hear it, they're not going to, you know.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
that's
at that
that's the
point, I
one
do
universal truth, is that you can never make someone do something they don't want to do, right?
exactly, yeah.
Yep.
Now, if you're willing to listen to me like you are here, right?
Mhm.
Then I'm okay with talking about it. But when it gets to the point where somebody doesn't want to talk about it anymore, I want to respect them because then I'm not going to get through. I'm not going to be able to get my point across to them.
Mhm.
You know.
Well, I think we as two reasonable people can probably determine a point in the conversation at which it can go no further, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm collaborative
I
on
would
that.
I would agree with that. I should also say that I believe that everything that the Bible says is true, and that there's nothing in the Bible that is false. But I also I, from what I've read of the Bible, which I would just want to make clear that I don't know everything about the Bible because the
Mhm.
Bible has 66 books and I think it's like close to 1,500 pages, right?
Yeah.
Um, which is a ridiculous amount. I'm not going to be able to memorize that entire thing. So, but from what I understand from the Bible is that nowhere in there does it say that the Earth is flat.
Okay.
That's why I asked you if you could show me where the verse is. Maybe it's a misinterpretation of it.
And it could very well be something that is taken by people who argue that it says flat Earth, that they're interpreting it to mean flat Earth, but it could also be something that the only thing that I'm seeing here is Genesis 1:6 through 9. It says, God said, let there be a dome in the middle of the water. It's the firmament thing. Let it divide the water from the water. God made the dome and divided the water under the dome from the water above the dome. That is how it was. You've heard passages from the
Okay.
Bible before called the dome sky. So there was
Yes.
evening, and then there was morning. The second day, God said, let the water under the sky be gathered together in one piece, and let dry land appear. And that is how it was.
I don't think that's really saying that the Earth is flat. It's
Yeah,
just
no, it
saying that
doesn't.
there was a
Yeah,
dome
I
over the
agree.
Earth.
It doesn't explicitly say that the Earth is flat. It does, however,
Yeah.
say that there's a dome above the Earth, which separated from water by water, which also doesn't
Yeah.
really make sense as far as reality is concerned.
Well, I mean, you could look at it as clouds, or you could look at it that when the flood had happened, that all that water had come down. But
But then you have to,
there's multiple different. What was that?
but then you have to acknowledge that the flood happened, and then that also doesn't comport with reality.
So you don't think the flood happened?
No, I don't think the flood happened.
Okay, so may I ask why?
There were a few articles that I had read that gave the science on how much that, like, there's something about the forming of granite that being formed as spontaneously as it would have been in the 40 days and nights, that it would have given off so much heat that it would have cooked the earth. Let me see if I can find it. The Great Flood. Something about, it's like granite, heat, energy. Hope I can find it. Yeah, well, Cynical brings up a good point that there was a lot of like flooding in a lot of different periods, and especially if you lived in a Mesopotamian era or like the Jesus era or whatever, then you probably be pretty freaking scared if you saw like walls of water coming toward you, like thinking that it was like a global flood. But yeah.
Yeah.
So again, so the evidence, I can't find the article I was looking at. 21. Oh yeah. Well, this is a paper from the California State University Northridge. geological analysis, critical analysis, false precept. Well, it seems biased because it says geological analysis of the false precepts, so it seems biased. Let me just warn you there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is. This is the one that I'm that I think I'm talking. It's limestone. Sandstone and limestone would have slumped during the carving of the canyon, not had formed on the cliffs. Salt and gypsum deposits more than 200 feet thick occur in the Paradox Formation, Utah, just 200 miles north of Grand Canyon. So what I can do is I can link this in the Twitch chat. Bam.
Okay.
And you can take a look at it at your leisure. And I was gonna see if I could find something that was pro-flood, but all I found was answers in Genesis, so we will not be using them as a source. And then there's just a bunch of like Reddit posts. But yeah, just over the years I've read different articles, and like the one that I linked to, and just, you know, seen like PBS specials like Nova and shit like that, you know, like, oh, there was a special on History Channel, I believe, that talked about the time that the flood happened, and like they did like a physical mock-up of what they believed that the ark would have done or would have been, and then they said, okay, this is physically impossible, and they were like, okay, let's do a different one, but let's scale it down just so we can try and float it on the river, and it broke instantly. And I don't know if the History Channel is exactly the best source for information, so I'll concede that. But just backed with the you know, the different articles and stuff that I've read, that gives me a good formed opinion of, I feel like an informed opinion of why I don't believe that the flood happened.
Okay. So then how would you explain like the fossils being found in the mountain?
Which fossils?
I can't name any specific fossils, but I know from like I've seen online of like people finding fossils like 4,000 feet above sea level. In fact,
On
I
Mount
found
Ararat?
fossils on no.
Oh,
just fossils like
on mountaintops? You mean like the seashell thing?
I'm not necessarily saying seashells, but I'm just saying like in general, like, to be fair, where I used to live in a small town in California, and we were 4,000 feet above sea level. And
I know, I was gonna say
just,
that cynical. Sorry, go on. He spoiled it for us, but go on.
And I found fossils there, just, you know, exploring and just roaming around. And so
well, the reason I say
the
seashells, because I found seashells on Yosemite, or like, that wasn't Yosemite, I think it was in the Sierra Nevada somewhere, but I found seashells up on the top of mountains. Like that's like 6,000 elevation, right? Like,
yeah,
it is a thing. I will recognize that is a thing that happens, but it's because there is a thing called plate tectonics, and it's as the plates of the earth move around, like that's literally what forms our mountains, and so it pushes the layer of rock up from the ocean, and that's how you get mountains over millions and millions of years. I get how that doesn't work if you believe that the earth is only 6,000 years old, but that's probably just another thing that kind of doesn't really make sense, right?
That the earth is millions of years old, or that the earth is 6,000?
That the earth is 6,000 years old. That doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. Why is that?
Because, I mean, we've determined through methods, and I know that this is a debated one, but through methods such as carbon dating, as well as radiometric isotopic something? Readings? Data? Whatever. The point is, we've got a pretty good scientific basis for a reason to believe that the Earth is, you know, billions of years old as opposed to thousands. There's only one, you know, I would say in the Christian world, there's very few credible sources that would agree with the idea that the Earth is only 6,000 years old, one of which being the Bible. to you that's credible. To me, that's not credible. But to you, that's like, you know, the book.
Well, if I'm being totally honest, the Bible doesn't say when the Earth was created. It's just an estimate guess that Christian scientists have proclaimed. I'm not saying that the Earth is 6,000 years old. It could be older. You know, it could be millions of years old. But from the science that I've heard and the science behind that, it's a little bit more of like, okay, is what the
But here's
science
what
says
you need to
credible?
know.
Because like the carbon dating, they've done tests on things like that, and they've come out false. Like I think they did if I remember correctly, they did a carbon dating on like I think it was something like a football or something like that. And it came up to be like 2 million years old, and which obviously isn't true because it's a football. But you said something else like radioactive dating or something like that. That I don't know much about, so I can't really say anything about that.
Let's see if I can define it. Hang on. Radiometric. Determined by analyzing the decay of radioactive isotopes found in Earth's rocks, meteorites, and moon rocks. So
okay,
yeah. So taking into account the fact that meteors, Cynical had a good point that there are meteors that formed roughly the same time as the planet, and it analyzes the decay of the pieces of rock that we've found. And as far as the false carbon dating thing, I think from what I had heard through the pipeline, it sounded like that was like a bit overblown. Like it was sort of like, because carbon dating only goes back a certain length as far as I'm aware. I think it only goes back to like an ambiguous, like I think that it can't tell you the exact age of the Earth because it doesn't go back that far. As far as I'm aware, I don't know many people who talk about the age of the Earth who claim to use carbon dating. I think that's more for like fossils, for like dinosaurs and mammoths and stuff. But radiometric dating is pretty reliable. Puts the age of the Earth at 4.54 billion years old, give or take 50 million years. And that's from observable data that they're using in labs right now. So
okay. So like I said, I don't know much about that, and I'm not gonna say that you're wrong, and I'm also not saying you're right either. It's just I'd have to do more research on that to really like understand that myself.
Cynical also brings up a good point that we have the speed of light as well, which is a solid mathematical formula, and so we know how long it takes from like light to travel from place to place. So
yeah,
again, it's there's a lot of backing to. I wouldn't say that there's a lot of disproof for the Bible, but I would say that there's a lot of backing to the things that I believe that make the Bible not make sense to me, if that makes sense. To be redundant.
Okay, so you don't just a quick question. So being that you don't believe that the Bible is credible, do you think that there is a God then?
I don't know. I don't know if there's a God. Could be many gods. Could be. I don't know.
Okay, so what makes you question if there is a God or not?
I don't question. Well, I mean, I just simply don't know. I don't really care if there's a God. Like if a God showed up to me and was like, "Hey, what's up? I'm a god," and like did something that proved he was a god, I'd be like, "Sweet dude, what's up? I'm Goose. Nice to meet you." I don't care.
Okay.
If the Christian God exists, then I wouldn't really want to hang out with him.
Why is that?
Because because he told y'all to own slaves.
Since when?
In the Old Testament.
In the Old Testament? I don't remember there being a place in the Old Testament where it says that you should own slaves.
Yeah, something about
I remember them saying that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I remember the Bible saying that you should be kind to your slaves and treat them with respect. But there's nothing that says that slave owning is okay. And if I'm being honest, slavery was a lot different back then than what as we think of slavery today.
Could you buy and sell people as property?
Well, what happened with slavery back then was that you would sell yourself into slavery to help pay for, basically like, okay, hey, I'm going to work for you, and you're going to give me housing
You're talking about
and
indentured
food.
Servitude?
Yeah, that's what. But
that's like working. That's not slavery. Slavery is when you own people.
Well, okay, like I said, they would. It was. The term was defined a little bit differently back then.
I agree with that. I know that, or I acknowledge that.
But
the male and female slaves which you have are to come from the surrounding nations. You are permitted to buy slaves for them. You may also buy the children of foreign workers who are living among you temporarily from their clans, which are living among you and have been born in your land. They become your property. You may will them to your children as property and make them slaves for life, but you may not tyrannize your brother Israelites. That's the MSG. I think that's the American Standard is like thy and thee, which I don't like that. But as for thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, whom thou shalt have of the nations that are around you, of them ye shall buy bondmen and bondmaids. Moreover, the children of the strangers that sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, they will have begotten in your land, and they shall be your possession. Leviticus 25,
okay.
25:44-45.
I don't think it's necessarily saying that. Again, slavery was different back then. It was people would willingly go in and become slaves. It wasn't this force of trade. But
I mean, what
keep
about
in mind,
the wars? Like, if you fight wars and you go and you occupy a foreign land, or you take prisoners or whatever, and you make them your slaves, which is getting slaves from the lands around you. What
doesn't
exactly,
it say temporarily though? In that scenario,
not slavery temporarily.
But I thought in that scenario it said you may temporarily keep them as slaves. Or maybe I misheard that.
You may also buy the children of the foreign workers who are living among you. Again, that's the MSG. Do you like the King James? Is that the one? Is that the?
If I'm being honest, I don't. The one version that I use is either
American
the
Standard?
NIV or the. I either use the NIV or the ESV.
Okay, NIV. Your male and female slaves are to come from the nations around you. From them you may buy slaves. You may also buy some of the temporary residents, so they're temporary residents. So like if someone comes to work on your farm, you may also buy some of them because they're living among you and members of their clans born in your country, and they will become your property. So you can buy them.
Yes.
But also... go ahead.
Again, it's not saying... It's not necessarily... It's not the same slavery as we're thinking today with, the 1800s or 1700s, where they were being forced into slavery. It's not that type of slavery. It's hey, I am poor and I can't live by myself, so I want to serve you and be a slave to you, and in exchange, I get housing and food.
Right, but that's not the only circumstance under which someone becomes a slave, right?
As far as I'm aware, in the old days, that's usually how that went.
So, what happens to prisoners of war?
Actually, Okay, that's
What about
different.
thieves, criminals, like criminality? What about that? Where do they go?
That's a punishment. That's a punishment. But
Doesn't
again, the
matter.
Bible also
Hey,
says that you're.
punitive slavery is still owning people as property.
That's true. But again, the Bible also says that you should treat them with respect, and you shouldn't you shouldn't treat them as less than.
It says that of the Hebrew slaves.
I think that's just period.
All right. Well, let me see if I can.
I believe it's in X. No, hold on. Oh, I forgot where that was. I want to say it was in Exodus. I want to say it was in Exodus 20, but I don't know if that's right or not.
Oh, is it Ephesians 6:9? Masters, do the same to them and stop your threatening, knowing that it's because you have a master in heaven. Basically, you have God is your master in heaven, so you want to don't threaten people or don't threaten your slaves. I assume that's what it means. I don't see passages leading up to and preceding it.
That's not what I understood from it. From what I understood was that it was just basically treat your slaves with, kindness and respect, and don't treat them as less thans.
Well, one could argue that if you are a slave, you're already below, you're already kind of less than, right? Like, if you can be bought and sold, and then your kids can be bought and sold, and then if your wife belongs to the guy that lives, that's employing you, then he can't leave because his family stays because he's property, and they wouldn't just let their family go with them after the 7 years or whatever.
Could you repeat that? I was following for a minute and then I completely lost. I got lost for.
So the point that I made was that the families of, like, it's still bad because the families couldn't necessarily go with the guys that had been in service for 7 years, I think it is. Sorry, I was reading the passages as I was saying that, so I'm muddling my thoughts up here, but I'm pretty sure that I was talking about how they had the fear that they couldn't leave because they would be leaving behind their families, because the children and the mom belong to, because if you give them a wife, if you give a slave a wife after he joins your household, then he's then married to that wife, and he has to, then the kids are now the slave owner's property along with the wife. And so the guy can still go after 7 years, but if he leaves, he's going to have to make the decision to either leave his wife and family or stay with them in servitude.
And that's what that says in the Bible?
Yeah. I am trying to find that. Becomes married, his wife shall go out if his master. Yes, okay, so Exodus 21, 1 through 36. Now these are the rules that you shall set before them. When you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve 6 years. Oh no, and in the 7th, he shall go out free. That's where 7 came from. For nothing. If he comes in single, he should go out single. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master gives him a wife, and she bears him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out alone. But if the slave plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free.
Okay.
So he has to make the decision to either leave his family behind or say whatever oath this is, pagan oath, to stay and be with his family.
Okay, so how I'm just trying to understand how you're seeing this as slavery and not more I understand it says that slavery, but again, it meant something different than what we think of today, because it wasn't as traumatizing.
That's not true. I'd say that's not true, man.
They're not being forced into slavery, and they're not being it clearly is saying in the Bible that they're supposed I'm not saying that as our society has grown, owning a slave would not be appropriate now.
It shouldn't have been appropriate back then, but God specifically endorsed it. Like, it should have just not been a thing. He should have said, don't own people.
Okay, so then let me put a scenario in your head. If you
I
were
wouldn't take the
unable
slave.
to... No, hold on.
I can tell you right now, I would not be a slave. I would not take the slave. I would not be a slave. I would not take a slave, no matter what scenario you're going to lay out. My stance will not change.
Okay, can I at least...
I promise. Yeah, go ahead, lay it out. I'll still give you the answer. I'm just spoiling it for you.
Okay, so if you're on the verge of death, death to hunger, right? Because you can't afford food and whatnot. And your options were to either say, hey, I'm going to accept my death here and die of starvation, or go to somebody and say, hey, I need food, I need shelter. If you give me those, I will work for you. And you're saying that you would rather die than take the scenario that take the food and the shelter that's being given to you by your quote unquote master, right? Does your answer change there?
Maybe I'm just a stubborn SOB, but I would probably rather starve to death than be somebody's property. I mean,
Okay,
I know that after the Exodus, they're like out in the desert, they're trying to follow Moses, and like sun's blaring down on them. They're like, well, we really would rather have been slaves. I can empathize with that. I don't think that I would personally do that, but I can empathize with it. I understand why they said that they would rather be slaves, but that's a flimsy prop up to the whole idea that slavery was somehow okay or justifiable. It could have just been a policy to not own people, like to provide, as the omniscient, omnipresent being that I am as God, I could just, provide the food and shelter that people need so that there is no necessity for people to own each other, perhaps.
Okay, so the way that the Israelites or the Hebrews were treated in Egypt is not ordained by God, because they were beat and they were whipped because they were property of
You don't think that God endorses
Egyptians.
beating your slave?
No. What? Wait, hold on.
You saying that was not in keeping with God's will? Beating and torturing? Well, beating.
I'm saying that God did not... Let's see, how do I put this so that way it doesn't get taken the wrong way? I'm saying that God does not ordain beating slaves, period.
So
That's
he
what I'm
doesn't
saying.
command that you
No,
beat your slaves.
So if you own slaves and you beat your slaves, that would be a sin, because then you're treating them as less.
Did you ever see the movie Pulp Fiction?
No.
Man, that's
I don't
such
think
a
I've
good
even
movie.
heard of that.
Oh my god. How old are you? You don't have to answer if that's too personal.
That's cool. I'm 21.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you still have time to watch it. It's do you ever seen any Quentin Tarantino movies at all? Like Hateful Eight, or I don't know what the modern ones are.
If I'm being
LA something, or Hollywood.
If I'm being honest, I don't really watch a lot of religious movies.
No, it's not religious. It's just it's just a movie that was like famous back in the 90s. I think it was more of like an independent movie back then, but it became really famous. It has like a following from like, big Hollywood people. It's whatever. Point is, Samuel L. Jackson, that's actually where he got one of his biggest roles, was as I think a hitman. I think he was a hitman, or like a cleanup guy or something, but he was a mobster of some sort. Anyway, the point is, he has a verse. He has a cited verse on his wallet and it also says a profane phrase that we will not be repeating for the TOS. But it was Exodus 21:20, and it was his favorite Bible verse, I guess. Or no, sorry. I'm crossing Always Sunny with Pulp Fiction. That was his. Was in goes the through the gates of hell or something like that. Whatever. It's a really epic one. So I won't muddy that memory by confusing it with Always Sunny. In Always Sunny, there's a black man who's confronting a white guy about verses in the Bible, and he says, "Oh, what like a phrase I really love is Exodus 21:20. When a man strikes a slave, male or female, with a rod, and the slave dies under his hand, then he shall be avenged," or he committed a sin or something like that. And then if the slave gets up after a day or two, he is okay or good or he is righteous or something like that because that slave is his property. And he's like, "What? So it's okay that you beat me beat me with a rod, and then if I get up in a day or two, it's okay?" And then the guy's like, "I'm not going to deal with your I'm messing up the scene, but it was really funny. But that's the one where God tells you can beat your slave.
I think that's a misinterpretation.
Okay, well, let me find the verse then. Exodus 20.
I can tell you it's not Exodus 20 because Exodus 20 is where the Ten Commandments were laid out.
Exodus 21:20. 21:20
Okay.
to 21. Anyone who beats their male or female slave with a rod must be punished if the slave dies as a direct result, but they are not to be punished if the slave recovers after a day or two, since the slave is their property. This is the NIV.
Okay, is there what's after that? I'm just curious.
Exodus 22. Whoever steals an ox or sheep and
Okay,
slaughters it or sells it definitely doesn't recover. It doesn't pull it back.
Okay. Interesting. That's something I did not know.
Yeah. Also, did you know that God endorses executing innocent women?
Where does that say? I'm curious about that. I'm gonna I'm not trying to stray away from what you just said where it's okay to beat your slave, because that's a verse that I don't think I've heard, and maybe it's out of context.
Yeah,
maybe I might have to read a little bit more into that. I don't really have like a rebuttal to that.
I mean, it's not, there doesn't have to be a rebuttal, It's just as long as you're thinking, as long as you're considering it, then that's all that matters.
Yeah.
I'll
I'll definitely have to do more
nobody wins or
research.
loses debates. All that happens is there's an exchange of information and people just leave better informed, hopefully. That's the hope, at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to find the thing. It's about so it's if he goes into her and is disappointed. I married this woman, or no, it's something about like my brother or cynical. I agree with that. The Bible's a book written by flawed people and a long time ago. It'd be weird if it didn't have flawed content. That's the whole crux of it. But what I personally can't do is base my life off of that. If someone is telling me that it is, incontrovertible. Sorry, I'm typing and speaking at the same time.
You're good. To answer, what was his name?
Cynical. He's on
Cynical.
the Twitch chat, I believe.
To answer cynical, he said that the Bible was written by flawed people, correct?
Yeah. Written by
Um,
flawed people from a long time ago.
that's true in a sense. I believe that that what is written directly by God and not necessarily man, if that makes sense. Like, God was the one who said it and man was the one who wrote it.
Well, strap in, because here's what God said next about marriage and infidelity. If a man takes a wife, and after sleeping with her dislikes her, and slanders her and gives her a bad name, saying, I married this woman, but when I approached her and it says when I went into her, but when I approached her, I did not find proof of her virginity. What is proof of virginity as far as you know, just from a biological standpoint?
I believe that, I think, if I understand correctly, is like blood on the sheets or something like that.
Okay, no, you got it. That is what we're looking for, the answer I was looking for.
I'm not versed in that, but
no, that's fine. That's fine. It's just that's what I was looking for. We're good. We're on the same page. So he says, I married this woman, but when I approached her, what I find the best version is when it says I went into her, because it's such like a weird euphemism. But when I approached her, I did not find proof of her virginity. Then the young woman's father and mother shall bring the town elders at the gate proof that she was a virgin. Her father will say to the elders, I gave my daughter in marriage to this man, but he dislikes her. Now he has slandered her and said, I did not find your daughter to be a virgin, but here is proof of my daughter's virginity. Do you think you can prove that very easily? Then her parents shall display the cloth before the elders of the town, the cloth that you lay down before you get to the nasty. And the elders shall take the man and punish him, because he apparently lied. If you can prove it, then he lied. They shall fine him 100 shekels of silver and give him the young woman's father, because this man has given an Israelite virgin a bad name. She shall continue to be his wife and must not divorce him, and he must not divorce her as long as he lives. Here's where things get a little hinky. If, however, the charge is true and no proof of the young woman's virginity can be found, she shall be brought to the door of her father's house, and there the men of her town shall stone her to death. She has done an outrageous thing in Israel by being promiscuous while still in her father's house. You must purge the evil from among you. How easy do you think it is to prove that somebody bled on the cloth that you get down on if only about 40% of women bleed the first time? And God, being the all-knowable, all-powerful, all-good entity that he is, probably knows a little bit about human biology, right? He knows a thing or two.
Wait. Only 40% of women...
Yeah.
Hold on. That's something I didn't know.
You might have to look that up. That is something, that is a thing. From a doctor that I've heard speak the words, who teaches sexual health.
Okay.
So did Bible just send a bunch of innocent women to death for no reason? Or at least command it?
It could be...
And this is the NIV again.
It could be that the biology of women back then were different.
That we've evolved. You can't believe in evolution and God at the same time.
Okay, there's two different types of evolution. There's evolution little
social
and
evolution and biological
biggie.
evolution.
Well, there's evolution.
So there's like
the way
10 types of
the way we explain it is there's two different types of evolution. There's biggie and little e. Biggie is that is the evolution that, apes became people, that type of thing. That's what biggie evolution is, going from species to species. Little e evolution is like a toucan changing the color of his beak or changing the thickness of his feathers to adapt to the environment.
I'm pretty sure those are the same thing.
You're
talking about adaptations are a component of evolution.
Okay.
Because maintaining an adaptation, a beneficial adaptation, is part of the mutation cycle that cells go through on iteration. And when you account for beneficial adaptations, you also have to account for the fact that there are non-beneficial adaptations as well, and not only just vestigial but also harmful. And if you look back on a long enough scope of time, the tree of evolution does not go in one specific path. There are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of failed species along the way, and those are only the ones that we've been able to find fossil evidence of. Like, there's all kinds of stuff we still don't know about the Cambrian, Precambrian era. And a great example, again, another movie that I'm going to reference that you can watch that gives just an entertainment example of this is the movie called Evolution. It's about space aliens. And there's an entity that hyper evolves like over, I think, half an hour. And you can watch this thing, like, it grows a limb, and the limb isn't useful, so it dies because it hasn't grown the lungs it needs yet. And then it grows a wing, and like the wing isn't useful because it's not the lung that it needs, and it strangles itself, the air suffocates it. And then so it grows a gill, and the gill almost works, but it's not really something that it needs, so it dies. And then one comes out, and it's like, and you see like, oh my god, it's got lungs, and they're like, oh my god, we gotta run, and then it terrorizes a town. So that on a micro scale, but there's all kinds of criteria that go into that, and the little e evolution that you were talking about is a part of that, but there's so much more that goes on. It's a wide world out there.
Exactly. So there's still a defining definition between little e evolution and big e evolution. There's the small details of, like, okay, a bird's feathers become thicker in this area because of, weather. But then there's a difference between, okay, this bird is going to become a lizard. Like, there's a complete, I think there's a complete difference between those two, because there's a lot more that needs to happen with.
Oh, yes. Okay, so with the Christian model, you have to be able to disavow some piece of evolution, and that's the one that you have sectioned off, is that apes become human beings. Is that correct?
Well, that amount of evolution is not possible.
It is.
Well, I'm just trying to answer your question. That's what the Christians believe, is that section of evolution is not possible.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but they are the same thing. They're both fall under the umbrella of evolution. So I mean that's a pretty well established thing by now. Even most Christians don't believe that that all of it. Well, I guess you're kind of laying out a good demonstration of what a lot of Christians believe. But another good amount of Christians also believe that it goes a little bit further, and that evolution is just an accepted thing. I wouldn't say that they're representative of everyone, but there's a good section.
Yeah, I know a couple of people who are that way, and who maybe you might be right that evolution is a thing, especially it's very well possible if the world is millions or billions of years old. Well, because then it's very well possible that yeah, exactly. But if the world is only 6,000 or 10,000, then an evolution like that is not going to be possible.
Yep.
So that's why it's like, okay, I base my beliefs around that era based off of the scientific evidence that I've seen and researched about. And so that's why I say that big E evolution isn't possible within that short of amount of time.
If I were to
does that make
agree
sense?
that it was 6,000 years old, then I would also agree that evolution, the way that I see it, would not be possible in that amount of time.
Exactly. So you kind of understand where I'm getting from.
Yeah. I see.
Regardless,
I agree. We're on the same page about our separate beliefs.
Regardless, I think that maybe biologically that women were different back then, that it was 100% of the time that they bled, not 40% of the time. And it goes to show, if you take what the Bible is true, right, that people used to live for hundreds of years, and now we're lucky if we get 80 years, right?
But
so obviously
if
there's been
that's
some sort of
that you believe, then I would, me personally, I would want to substantiate that. I would want to make sure that that's true before I start believing it, because all you have to back that up is the Bible, and maybe some TikToks.
Well, but there's also eyewitnesses
hundreds of years.
These people. Yeah, there's like there's eyewitnesses, and there's people who have said, "Hey, this person lived."
Eyewitnesses.
Like Well, okay, then how did we know that Caesar was a real person? Because those were only eyewitnesses.
Because of
How
historical
did you
and written accounts that have been
exactly?
verified with, again, radiometric isotopic dating.
And
We don't
so,
have that for
but
the Bible. Again, I said I said all the way at the top that the oldest copy we have is like roughly 800 years old.
well, but what I'm trying to get at is that if okay, so I'm saying that, but there is scientific evidence that older people, around the Bible era, Exodus, things like that, lived hundreds of years.
Other than eyewitness accounts and the Bible, I don't think that I've seen any evidence of that.
It said that King Tut lived to be 200 years old. Or maybe not King
Tutankhamun died when he was like 12.
No, I think, yeah, I'm sorry. That was my bad.
His mummies lived for about thousands of years.
I misspoke. That was my bad. I believe that there was an Egyptian king.
The curse, if someone opens that tomb, is going to live for a couple thousand years.
I believe that there was a Egyptian king that lived to be a few hundred years old. If I remember
I would
correctly.
love to see any evidence that anyone lived for hundreds of years. I would welcome it, and I would be like, that's a long ass time to live. I hope I live that long, or at least am ambulatory and able to live that long.
Okay, so but going back to the whole evolution thing, or going back to the whole God killed innocent women.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was necessarily what verse was that again? Was it Leviticus?
Deuteronomy 22:13 to 21.
Oh, Deuteronomy. Okay, so
when he's laying out the laws.
Again, it's a different time, so there's punishments.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that that has to be said about the Bible, man. There's a lot of that. That was just a product of the time. Why are you still following it then? Why didn't you update it?
Okay, so but all that is at that point, all that is history. We take the stuff that still applies to us today, like the Ten Commandments, right? Like,
right.
I mean, even if you don't believe in the Bible,
take slaves in the Ten Commandments, right?
Well, okay, so let me explain this. So if you believe, even if you don't believe in a God and you don't believe in the Bible, right?
I'm listening. I'll be right back.
You can still appreciate that. You can still understand that, okay, some of the Ten Commandments are like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you shall not kill. That's the 6th commandment. That's obviously wrong, and people know that. But it's said in the Bible, so we take that and we move it to modern day society.
Who did the Ten Commandments apply to?
What was that?
Who did the Ten Commandments apply to?
The Ten Commandments apply to every single human being in existence. Or I'm sorry. Sorry. Let me rephrase that. They apply to everybody past the time of their existence. So as soon as the Ten Commandments were written, they now apply to everyone. That's
I think that's definitely changed over the course of history. At the time, it was intended specifically for Israelites, but it's come to encompass, I would say, universal acceptance, exactly the way that you've described.
Mm-hmm.
He was laying out the law to the Israelites that he was leading out of Egypt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but let me ask you this. If, those were laws that he set in place, so people were supposed to follow them. Like, if you kill somebody, that's not even if it was legal and you weren't going to get in trouble for it, you would still feel bad about it because you understand that that's not something that's good. In the same way, if you steal something, you feel bad about it because it's something that's not good, right? So something that the Bible says, or one of the 10 commandments, the 7th commandment, is that you shall not commit adultery, which not only means, have sex outside of marriage, or have sex while being, or with somebody else while being married. That also goes with looking at somebody with lustful intent, right? And so
anyone who watches porn.
Yeah.
Anyone who
I
looks
would say
at a attractive woman on television and gets a boner.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that I have not done that, and I'm completely guilty of that.
So you get to pick and choose which commandments you follow?
No. Okay. Let me go back to this.
But you said the ones that apply to us today, and there's certainly ones that don't necessarily, right?
Every single 10 commandment is supposed to apply regardless of what time. Where it becomes tricky is like the owning slaves. That's not a 10 commandment. That was something in the time. It is no longer okay to own slaves. Right.
Specifically endorsed and instructed by God himself.
But let's take, for example, a huge thing that is a huge debate in the Christian community is not eating pork. That's not a 10 commandment, so that's okay to do. The 10 commandments are kind of just like the basis of like, those are the laws set in place and you're supposed to follow them. No human being is able to follow them because we all have our selfish motives, right? Me included, right? And I'm not trying to say like I don't struggle with this stuff, because I 100% do. I lie, I have stolen, I have lusted before. Do I like it? No. Do I want to stop it? Yes. But
and as long as you repent, you get a free get out of a jail free card, right?
So there's not exactly. The word repentance is kind of thrown around as like this lightly loosed word, as like, I pray to God and say, hey, God, please forgive me, and then continue living my life as I was. That's not what true repentance is. True repentance is, okay, I have done wrong. Let me try to change what I did and ask God for forgiveness, and I will try my best not to do that again. That's what true repentance is.
So you can't recant on your deathbed?
No. Well, okay, hold on.
I mean, a lot of people seem to believe you can, including tons of preachers and priests. So when I said no, I was trying to disagree with you. I agree. I think you can repent on your deathbed, because you just have to really mean it.
It's well, again, it's the motive. So if your motive is, I just don't want to go to hell.
I'm just boiling down what you're saying into a single statement. I assume that what you're saying is that you have to truly mean it.
Yes, exactly. It's all of motive.
But I have to also point out that somebody who's on their deathbed isn't necessarily in the space of, I'll say or do anything to get out of this. I think what they're trying to do is, I really want to make good with the guy upstairs so that I don't burn down there. So my argument would be that I would assume that a lot of people who do that deathbed confession kind of thing really mean it. So,
well, okay, again, there's a difference. So as you said, people who do that are
there's a lot of very specific distinctions that we have to make for some things, but I'm listening.
So like in the scenario you said, okay, people do it just so that way they can please God, right? Or I'm sorry, so that way they can please God, so that way they don't go to hell. That's different because they're doing it for themselves, not because God told them to. So like for me, being that I take what the Bible says is true, right? If I'm on my deathbed and I say, and I say, God, forgive me for all the sins that I've done. I was terrible. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for him, right? I deserve to go to hell. And I have my mindset as in I deserve to go to hell and not to heaven. And I am expecting hell even after repentance. Then the fact is, okay, I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for God because I had displeased God, right? And then through that, God says, okay, you are my child. I'm taking you to heaven because of your true want to be with me and desire to be like me.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It's a lot of bending. Sounds like a lot of bending that you got to do.
What do you mean?
Because, I mean, well, at some of the worst times in my life, I have cried out to a higher power with all the will being in my soul, and nothing had changed. And regardless of whether I prayed hard enough or cried out to the void strong enough, something should have happened, right? I should have, if I was targeting something, let's say that the beings exist out there who can hear that, be it God or whoever, perhaps something should have happened. And I'm not saying that that's like the be all end all test, for my belief that God is or isn't real, but it's the motive was to have something change. The motive was to reach someone, and it's I think a ubiquitous thing for us in just living in the US for you over 20 years, me over 40 years, to have heard some story or something about people praying and nothing happening. And just like I'm sure you being part of a Christian community, you've probably heard people praying and then thinking that things did happen. Like I'm sure that those are in equal measure for you. But as I've heard plenty of accounts of people praying with everything they've got and nothing happening, I'm sure that people on their deathbed who know they're going to die would probably mean it if they were going to try to recant or convert or whatever is the best word for that. With every fiber of who they are. So if it's about intent and if it's about, how much you mean it, then again, I can't account for everybody, on their deathbed, but I would say that the majority of people, it feels like the argument is changing a little bit, that you can recant on your deathbed. So as long as the intent is there, right?
Yes. And I was never denying that in the beginning. What I'm saying is that there has to be the intent of I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this for God. Just in the way of and I'll give you an example, right? I've pled to God to give me things before, and it didn't work because they were through selfish motives. It wasn't what does God want to do? It's what do I want to do? That's the difference between.
Are you sure you're not just going through a process of introspection and then coming up with whatever the most reasonable solution is to whatever challenges it is that you're facing? Are you sure that it's a religious process? What are you doing when you pray?
What do you mean?
What are you doing when you pray? Like, do you center yourself? Do you concentrate? Do you have a routine? I know that for me, when I was being encouraged to pray when I was younger, there was a specific routine to it. Like you knelt at the side of the bed. I wasn't ever asked to do any of these things, but if I'm thinking about the stereotypical Christian, praying at night, you stand at the side of the bed, you have to put you put your hands in a certain way, and you bow your head, you either close your eyes or you don't, but there's some routine to it, right? So
yeah.
Are you familiar with computers at all? Like, are you a big fan of like engineering or anything like that?
I understand it a little bit, especially recently since I just bought myself a PC. But
Okay. Well, think about like a neural network or like a brain, like an AI sci-fi brain, right?
yeah,
Like your brain has to connect those electrical signals to certain places in order to remember and reference different data. Like just like a hard drive, like you have your A drive, B drive, C drive. They all serve different sections of storage.
yeah,
And so when we as human beings, we engage our minds in specific manners, like going through a routine or a ritual like that, we're connecting a pathway from the hub in our brain, wherever that, I don't know the brain, so just whatever that thing is called, like somewhere in the hippocampus maybe, but it develops a connection between this and something else. So when people pray, or a better analogy, just from my own point of view, would be therapy. When you go to therapy, they sort of have you center yourself and they ask you a series of questions that sort of encapsulate the issue you're trying to solve. And then you kind of navigate yourself by connecting those things with whatever it is in your past that you're dealing with. So when you pray, you are activating the neural pathway between your conscious mind and whatever it is you might be concentrating on. Let's say if you're married and you have a fight with your spouse and you're angry and you walk away, and you don't know what you could have possibly been, getting yelled at. And maybe I'm taking this reference from real life. You don't know what you possibly could have done to piss her off. And you're like, what are you referencing right now? Like, what are you trying to be angry at me about? If I was religious, I might go pray about it, right? Would that be something that I would want to talk to God about?
Yeah, probably.
So I'd go to wherever I go, and I would pray. And chances are I'm going to go to the same place that I go almost every time. And I'm going to do the same thing that I do almost every time. And so I'm activating that neural pathway. And so when I've got my brain cooking and I'm like, all right, I gotta talk to you, God. There is something going on in my marriage. I need your guidance. I need to figure out what's going on. Give me something. I gotta figure it out. I gotta attack this from the front and have a good marriage and have a good wife. A good wife? Whatever, And so
I understand.
Okay, good. And so you're doing this thing. You're doing exactly what people do when they introspect and when they reflect on things. And I think it's not a hard connection to make, because you're really just centering yourself and you're giving yourself the space away from things, away from stimuli, and you're really trying to think about your situation. If you're a Christian, by prayer, and if you're not a Christian, then just through some other manner. Like some people talk to a mirror, some people talk to their dog, some people have, their spouse is so close to them, they talk to them about all that stuff. Some people talk to therapists. But it's all activating a thing in your brain that connects you with the thing that you're trying to address. And so if you sit there and you focus for a bit, you might actually realize, oh no, there's this thing that I missed, or like I forgot her birthday or forgot to get her a gift or something like that. And you'll go back in there, and a Christian could argue that was God coming and saying like, let me help you. And if you want to get real micro, you could split the infinitives and you could say, well, he was really just being that guy on my shoulder and prodding me to finding the right thing through introspection. But if you're really giving the credit to reality and observable biology and just a little bit of an atheist point of view, you can give yourself the credit for having come up with that solution yourself, I guess is overall what I'm trying to say.
Okay, when I go to God to ask for help, usually it's not in a scenario like that. It's usually something that's completely beyond my abilities, right?
When you said that he doesn't do it, right? Because it was like selfish or something?
Well, there have been times where it's, okay, I have selfish motives, and there are times where God says, okay, you know what? I will give you this selfish motive request, and then there are times where God says, no, this doesn't line up with the plan that I have for you, so I'm going to have to deny that for you, right? And so let's say, for example, recently I had submitted an application to a beat contest, and I end up getting scammed out of $200.
Eesh. Sorry that happened to you, man. Fuck.
It's in the past now, and there's nothing I can really do about it now.
Try to learn from it.
Exactly, yeah. That's what I've been doing. I'm planning on doing a video exposing them eventually.
Oh, good. Yeah. Hey, yeah. If you can name and shame and you brought receipts, then hell yeah, man. I'll shout it out. I'll watch it if you give me a link or whatever.
I appreciate that. I seriously do.
Hey, we're part of a community, even if we have opposing views, and I'm trying to build that community. All right, so you'll never hear a no from me on that.
I appreciate that. I seriously do. Going back to the whole thing. So what I had did is I asked God to give me the ability to somehow get my money back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, in all retrospect, there's literally nothing that I can do to get my money back, right? They already have it. They've already taken it. They've probably already spent it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm completely out of $200, right? In that scenario, all I'm doing is I'm saying, God, this is completely impossible for me. If it's in your will, please allow me to make the selfish request of me and grant me, the $200 that I had lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
I phrased that super weirdly, but you get the point.
No, I get it.
And now God obviously said no to that because I don't have $200 in my bank account.
Mm-hmm.
But in scenario like that's where it's like, okay, I wouldn't necessarily say that was me. Let's say I got the $200 back, right?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't me because that's completely out of my hand, right? And the only way that I can, say that was possible was because of an alternate person outside of time going and saying, hey, this is what I want for you,
Well, doesn't that just simply prove that it's easier to believe in something outrageous than to believe that you could be capable of eliciting change yourself? To my argument, that's all that really proves. Doesn't prove that God exists.
Okay, but let me ask you this. And listen, if something like that were to happen, where something completely out of my hand is given to me, how am I supposed to explain, what logical conclusion could I come to? Okay, let me see if I can give you an example. At my old house, I had asked God to give me a job.
Mm-hmm.
And because I needed one, I was short on money, and nothing I was doing was working. And
I've been there.
What's that?
I said I've been there.
And
many times.
I asked God for help, and I said, hey, I need your help, God. Please bless me with a job. And exactly one day later, somebody came up to me at my church and was like, hey, I have a job I need done. Would you be willing to do it? Something like that. And this, keep in mind, I've never met this person. I don't know who this person is. Even though they go to my church, I don't know who they are. They randomly came up and said, hey, I need your help. Right? Like, in my head, I don't think there's... Exactly. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
I see that.
completely coincidental. The only way that I can justify why that happened was because of the prayer that I had asked for, and God said, hey, I'm going to give you this because this is going to help you in your life, right? Does that make sense?
In between, like in the entire time that you were looking for a job, had you told anybody that you were desperate looking for a job? Have you told anybody at all? Like any, and even passing conversations, like had you told any friends, family, parents, loved ones, oh man, like I wish I had a job? Even casual mention up to like saying, oh, I don't have a job, and then breaking down, sobbing and rending your garments. Like anywhere on that spectrum, did you mention that to anybody along the way since you started your job search to when you got your job? Anybody?
Just my parents, and it wasn't even really like I had mentioned it to them. They just said, hey, you need to get a job.
Mm-hmm. Are your parents active members of your church?
I know. Yes, but again, I didn't
Could it have been
know the person
at all that they might have said something to the parish, and perhaps the parish might have sent an email out or something, like on its email it said like, hey, you know, so-and-so's kid's looking for a job, if anyone has anything, please. And maybe they might have said something like, don't mention it to him, we don't want him to feel like, you know, if he doesn't like the idea that people are trying to hand him a job, then like let's not, you know, do that. But if anyone has any work, can you guys just like send it his way? Like, is there any chance that anyone might have done that?
If I'm being honest, my parents aren't those type of people.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, hey, believe me, mine was not engaged. All right, so I get it. I'm just trying to.
My parents are just kind of like, I totally understand. I totally
do you see where my thought process is? Like, there are so many other things that I can think of that might have happened along the way that don't necessarily point to God. I'd much rather give you the credit for getting yourself a job than I would give God the credit. You did the work.
Well, but
that's the
again,
whole thing I'm trying to put out there, is that you did the work.
I understand that, but how is this person how is this person supposed to know that my work ethic was good and that I was looking for work? Like, how is that person supposed to know when, like I said, my parents aren't the type of people to just go about and
they might not have. I don't know. You know, like I said, it's hard to explain, but it's also hard for me to just jump to a specific place. You know what I'm saying? Like, if something coincidental was to happen, I would of course question it. Like, and maybe like if I had been probably less exposed to religion, probably arguably growing up, then maybe I would have questioned whether it was a god or some divine force, especially if it's like super out of the question. But I don't know. It's still to me a leap, and then I have to also account for all the bad stuff that happens. Is all the bad stuff the same force?
No.
Or can I give myself
different.
well?
So okay. Let me try to define.
I was gonna say there's a lot of it's difference that we have to deal with in the Bible.
Yes, I agree with you there, and I can see why. In a case of, okay, is God, you know, punishing me? Is God, you know, causing these horrible things to happen to me? He's, from what we understand from the Bible, because again, there's not really any evidence outside of the Bible that God exists.
Which kind of hurts your case, you know that, right?
I understand that, and to be fair, Christianity is a faith-based religion, right? I'm not denying that. But because like the thought of having just this person completely outside of time is incomprehensible to us because we're bound by time, right? But and so there's obviously going to be a certain amount of faith that we have to put in God, right? Or for people to put their faith in God, right? Obviously, you don't put your faith in God
until we find the answers.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm putting my faith in God, but God. So going back to the scenario, or going back to, okay, does God, you know, do terrible things? According to what the Bible says, the God is incapable of causing evil. So if like, let's say you, like, okay, taking the instance of I got scammed, right?
Mhm.
I got scammed of $200. That's not God's doing, right? That
Mhm.
was sin's doing. That was the people who had stolen my money. That was their doing, right? Because we live in a world of sin. So nothing's going to be perfect,
God's outside of
right?
time, right?
Yes.
So he can view the breadth, the entire breadth from beginning to end of all time everywhere, right? Omniscient,
Yes.
omnipresent.
Yes.
So he knew those guys were going to scam you.
Yes.
And he could have just, stopped them from doing it. Or if we want to get real micro, he could have just done something into the whatever primordial ooze that would have eventually evolved its way to the people that scammed you and said, I know that this is going to happen. I can very easily prevent it. And just didn't do that.
Okay. Here's another
God
scenario
potentially
thing.
could have done it to you. So
He-
potentially
Yes.
he's culpable.
But let me say this. God gives us free will. And if he were to morph his way in time so that way every single outcome is good to people, right? Then would we really have free will?
But I mean,
Because go ahead.
he can still give us free will if he's just editing genes so that the guys don't scam you, right? Editing genes so the guys don't get born, or so they get born differently. That's still giving him free will.
Except in Christianity, the soul is separate from the body. So the body is our sinful part, and our soul is affected by the body, but our soul also is what gives us the free will, right? So God.
So people can be born evil? Is that what you're saying?
No. Again, we're not. The soul is the babies are born. Their souls are pure. It's not until they start understanding what sin is when they start having the choice of, hey, I can do this, or I can go do my own thing. That's what free will is. No matter what genetics you change from the person, they're still going to be the same person, if that makes sense. If those people who scammed me were girls, if you change their genetics to guys and change their genetics to be handsome, it's not going to change anything, because the soul is where the problem is, right?
Okay, so then if everything is within his power, then he could have moved a brick somewhere. He could have made that scam not work, or he could have, there could have been something. If he sees all the time and space, he could have put some stuff into motion to help you out, not cause unneeded suffering.
Again, people have free will, and when they
if you held on to those $200?
What was that?
Would you have sinned if you held on to those $200? Maybe this is a means to an end. Maybe there's a greater plan at play.
That's very true. Maybe I was going to sin with that. I can't say for sure. But I probably would have put it to, if I had that $200, I would have put it to trying to make more music again. But that's kind of like,
in some circles, music's a sin.
Which I think is complete.
Yeah.
Bull crap,
Agreed.
But I guess I can see your point on that. But it's kind of hard to explain, because it makes sense to somebody who believes in God and believes in the powers that God has, it's really hard to explain how free will works and why God lets the things happen that happen without having the understanding of like a Christian belief, if that makes sense. Without having the faith. It's really, really hard to explain because, like, yes, we have free will, and yes, God could have said, hey, you know, I'm gonna put a roadblock for for you to keep your $200.
Mm-hmm.
But he decides to reduce his power and say, I'm going to let these people do what they want. And whatever they want to do is what I'm going to respect their wishes to be. Right? Just like if there is a God, right? And this may be offensive, and please don't take it as offensive, but if there is a God, by not believing that he is real and by rejecting him, you are sinning, right? And so, but he respects that. He says, okay, yes, you don't believe in me, and you don't believe what I say is true. I'm going to respect that, and he lets you do that. He could very well just say, hey, you're going to believe that I exist. But instead, he decides to reduce his power and say, no, I'm going to let them have their own free will. Right? Does that make sense?
As long as they come to me in the end.
No, because not everybody is
There's
going
no
to
two different
come.
universes. If Christianity is real, there's not like two different universes that people live in. It's either God's universe or no universe. So if I choose to use my free will to not believe in God and not worship God, then according to God, it'll be fine if I come to him in the end, but if not, then I'd burn in a lake of hellfire forever.
Yes, because that was that was the choice you chose, correct?
I guess. He doesn't really seem like a good guy, does he?
Well, okay, let me put it to you in this perspective.
Why would you hold consequences over an innocent person's head? Believe in me or die.
Okay, that's not necessarily true. What?
Yeah,
why? Okay, so let me ask you this.
That's what the Bible says.
Yeah.
If I don't believe in him, I'm gonna burn in hellfire.
But you're saying that you're innocent, correct?
By not believing in him, I've sinned, and therefore I'm gonna go burn in a lake of hellfire. You see how that's a catch-22?
By not putting your trust in him, and
we can word it any way you want.
Okay, so there's a tie between believing in God. So it's not the fact that I believe in God and that he is, a real person. It's the fact of I believe that what Jesus did on the cross was for me, and I choose to accept that gift that God has given me.
You'd have to believe that Jesus died on the cross for our sins then. But if it's not what someone believes, and that means babies, because nobody's born religious, then we're all kind of condemned to a lake of hellfire.
Well, we're not condemned for not believing, we're condemned for sinning. Does that make sense?
And not believing is a sin.
No, not believing is not a sin. It's one of the
10 Commandments.
No, nowhere in the Bible, nowhere in the 10 Commandments does it say that not believing is a sin. And the 10 Commandments
if I do something against the 10 Commandments, have I sinned?
Yes. There you go. But the 10 Commandments don't say that not believing is a sin. What they say is that
God. Does that mean that believing in no God would count as having a God other than God? Wouldn't that cover atheists?
It's a little bit, yes. But
okay.
It's a little bit harder than explaining that, because by believing in not a God, you are putting yourself as a God.
We have to come up with just to support a loving God. Like it's a lot of like bending that it feels like we have to do. Because I feel like I'm coming from a place of compassion still, and I'm still gonna burn in a lake of fire. So, a loving care, like it's very hard for me to rationalize belief in a entity that would have that type of sadistic nature towards his own creation.
So let me break away from that. Let's take for this example, let's take the third commandment out, which is, you shall not have any other gods before me.
Why are we taking a commandment out?
Well, I'm just doing this as a example, right?
Okay.
This is not reality. I'm just trying to set an example here. Saying, for this instance, let's say that that's not a commandment. If you have broken any of the other commandments, you're still going to go to hell if you don't accept the gift that God has given you, right?
Okay, what if I didn't? What if I'm completely clean of all those?
That's not possible.
Is it not?
It's because
are you saying that some of the 10 commandments contradict each other?
No.
Okay, so
I'm saying it's physically impossible for us to be perfect. Like, are you perfect?
The only thing I did was not
let me
believe
ask
in
you
God.
that.
But now we're changing reality so that commandment doesn't exist. I didn't do anything else. I just said I didn't believe in God.
Okay, but
imagine I'm just sitting in a chair. You guys have brought me in. If I'm sitting in a chair and I'm like, I just don't believe in God.
Okay, so let me. I'm okay. In the current state that you are in right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you sinned or have you stolen?
Not that I have ever known, or not that I've known of. I haven't ever stolen that I've known of. I'm sure that there's like, if I paid a bill late for like blood. Did you say blood?
No, I said, have you ever lied?
Oh, I thought you said like your blood, and I was like, oh, I didn't steal any of my blood.
No.
How did you know I was a vampire?
No.
Lied. I think Christians have a lot of different definitions of lie. Like, you can say, I believe that the sky is red with all my heart, and you'd be like, oh, you sinned. But I would say that I've never lied with malicious intent. But
okay,
I don't know that everything that I've said is 100% verifiably true. But I'm comfortable saying that.
I just want to make something very clear. In the aspect of joking, lying is okay. So because in that sense, you're not doing it with malice intent. You're doing it as comic relief. So like if I said,
I've never lied, like I guess just to elaborate, I've never lied like in effort to deceive somebody.
Okay.
Like, I learned very early on, like, because my mom used to lie to me a lot, and I had a lot of like people in my life who would openly lie to me when I would know like the other truth was. It's just by coincidence, but it just happened to be something that I learned early, and so I just don't really lie to achieve anything, except laughs.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But that's about it. Yeah.
Have you ever told somebody that they looked good even though they didn't?
No. That's a lie.
Okay.
I don't like lying to people.
Okay. All right. So then, have you
committed
adultery?
I am to a fault transparent.
So, okay, you said you haven't committed adultery.
No.
Keep in mind, that also includes lust. Not even lustful
glances. No, not even lustful glances. I'm a very asexual person.
I don't know what that means.
It just means, or I guess I'm demi-romantic. I don't know the sexual terms, but I think asexual is when you're not really like horny. And then, but I think I'm more like demi-romantic, which is where you don't really feel a lot of that passion that people often feel, you know?
Okay, so you've never beat it before?
I mean, I can't say that I never have, but it's been a damn while.
Okay,
And
so then that in and of itself is considered lust because that is a sexual desire.
Dirk, I
is
don't
that
think
not?
that it was that I'm really looking for the term asexual. I don't know if that's what I'm looking for. I think it's somewhere between. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, man. Someone asked me a question in Twitch chat.
It's all good.
No, yes. There are, as far as I'm aware, I don't know it for a fact, but I think I remember reading something in the Bible about how specifically to spill your seed. And I cannot quote the verse or chapter.
Oh,
but I believe
I know what you're talking about because one of my friends tried to pull this on me.
It was about like a brother, and you can't like spill your seed on a blanket or something. Yeah, sorry, go on. I don't remember what the overall thing was, but God talks about jerking it.
Okay. So, have you ever hated somebody?
No.
So you've
I
never
don't think I've.
You've never wished death upon somebody?
No, fuck no. Have
Okay.
you?
No. Well, not that I can think of. Not that I can think of.
I mean, that's pretty fucked up, man. I think we can both agree on that.
And you've never coveted. Do you know what coveted means?
It's when you're like part of a fan group for something, basically.
No. It's the want of something that is somebody else's.
Oh yeah, no.
Okay.
I moved
so
when
you've
I was
never
18.
Done that?
When I was 18, I moved to San Francisco with the clothes on my back. Like, I am not a materialistic person, nor do I give a shit about possessing anything or any concept.
Okay. Have you ever used God's name in vain? As in basically use God's name as like
the
a
G damn
demeaning. You could say it that. You could say that, or saying OMG, or saying
I know
anything.
plenty of Christians who do that all the time, and they would not consider that a sin by any means. Saying like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But right, you know that's on like phones, and you know that like the majority of people are religious, right?
They say that they're religious, but well, okay, again, these are commandments that were given by God. So anything that is supposed to demean the God's name, the title that we put on God, is considered blasphemy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you say, oh, God isn't, if you say something like, oh, God's just this stupid idiot who doesn't know what he's doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be blasphemy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever
I don't think
done
I've
something...
ever criticized God. I never believed in God, so I wouldn't really criticize him. That guy, he's off. He's off his rocker. Somebody needs to conduct a cognitive test on him.
But you have used the phrase, oh my God, before, correct?
I'm sure in my 40 years there had to have been at least once or twice that I've said that, but I don't actively use it, no.
Okay. So going based off of just that alone, you've broken one of the rules that God has set, correct?
Well, I guess I'm burning in the lake of hellfire then.
Not exactly. What I'm saying is that you're not perfect, right?
Right.
So,
but did I do anything wrong? Not according to God's laws, just according to your own sense of what's right and wrong? Did I do anything wrong since all I did was say, oh my God, once or twice?
well, you said that you've beat it before, which would be
Okay.
a sin, right?
Right.
So,
But
still, that's
objectively not evil.
I wouldn't necessarily. Okay, we'll say objective. We'll say objectively. I disagree with that, but that's
Not
just
evil?
me.
You think that that's any of those are evil? Evil.
What was that? Wait. Okay, hold on. I might be misunderstanding here.
I said that I was objectively not evil just because I've said, oh my God, and as you put it, beat it a couple of times.
I would say, but again, that means that you've done impure things, right?
But I'm right. But we're talking about right and wrong.
So
Just objective
beating
morality.
it wrong? So are you saying that beating it's not wrong?
Why would it be wrong? It is a natural
Because,
process.
But it's supposed to be for a man and a woman.
It's a natural process. If you are not religious, which nobody's born religious, then you wouldn't have any concept of whether it's right or wrong. You would simply have the urge to rub up against things. That's a biological thing. It's been there since the reptile brain was bigger than the other parts. We still see primates beating it. Animals rub up against stuff. It's a natural imperative. That's part of how we learn to have sex. Do you ever wonder why Christians are so bad in bed?
I can't say that that's
I'm sure
true,
you probably haven't wondered, but I would argue that if you're not learning, then you probably won't know much to begin with, right? Maybe some people might pick it up along the way, but if you're marrying at 18, like a lot of Christians do, then you've got a long way to go and a long road to learn on. Especially if you're not rubbing up against anything or beating it, as you like to put it. And your stamina's probably oof. Hey. Oofa.
So, okay, and just to
so
clarify,
one could even say that having the urge to want to please the person that you get married to is a pretty altruistic thing, and arguably a pretty good goal. So, still objectively not evil. A sin, I'll grant you, still not technically evil.
Okay, but according to what God says, right? You've admitted that it's a sin, and God has said that all sins are evil. All right.
Well, I
guess
God just gets to pick and choose who he admits into his secret club.
Again, being that if you believe in God, you believe that he created us. So it's only fair for us to follow his rules, just as like your parents probably set rules for you, right, in your house, and you probably got punished. They definitely
didn't instruct me to enslave anybody, or beat them, or to commit mass murder, or kill groups of children or innocent women.
Okay, again, those aren't commandments, and those
Did God
aren't,
command them?
No, he just said, "This is what
hey,
I'm
guys,
allowing."
if you're gonna do it, now I'm not gonna say you don't have to, but if you're gonna do it, here's how you should beat your slaves. Now I'm not gonna say that you should do it, but if you're gonna conduct an abortion, here's how you should do it.
He didn't say that beating the slaves was okay, and he never gave instructions on how to beat the slaves.
If they die right away, it's not okay. But if they get up, then that's fine, because they're his property. Still pretty bad, right? Me, so far, in this hypothetical that we've been building, this universe that we live in now, hypothetically, I've been a peach compared to God so far. So even if he's real, why the hell would I want to worship him? Just looking at it as an objective outsider.
That's fair, and that's why I'm trying to bring a side that maybe you haven't seen, because like the way I see it is that it's not necessarily that God is ordaining this, but there's just not much that he can do, because it goes back to the free will. It's that was what the person chose, and that person is terrible for beating the slave.
But then we're in a cyclical argument then, because if you say people have free will, I say, well, God designed it that way. And you say, well, okay, well, then he designed them with free will. And I'm like, yeah, but he designed them that way. He could choose which components to put in and which to take out, and what to do, how to encourage people to do the right thing, especially if their ethereal souls are up there in heaven before he's inserted them into their bodies. He can say, hey, guys, don't own people. Don't kill innocent women. If we're to believe that is that not okay? Let me ask you this. In the Ten Commandments, they were given to us by God. Those were the rules that he gave us, and he said, don't do this. Going back to going to Adam and Eve's story, right? God gave them one rule: you shall not eat of this tree, the tree of life. And what did they do? They decided to do it, right? So, hey, I'm going to put you guys in a garden. I'm going to put this tree in the middle of the garden. It's going to be big and impressive, and it's going to give you all the knowledge in the world, but I do not want you to touch it, okay? Do not touch it. And if you do, I know it's just going to be eating a piece of fruit and gaining all the knowledge that has ever existed or ever will exist, but I'm going to just destroy the rest of humanity for all of the rest of the life of existence of the planet, okay? Just saying.
Except God says that if you eat this fruit, you will surely die. He says that.
Cool.
And he says not to eat it. And what do? They eat it because they have free will, right?
Okay. Well,
even though he warned
some
them,
Christians
and
would
he
tell
said,
you, Eve convinced him to eat it because women are evil.
Except it was the serpent who convinced Eve, and then Eve gave it to Adam. That's you can't blame it all on Eve, because Eve made the free decision to say, "Hey, I am going to eat this." You can't blame it on Adam, because Adam said, "I'm going to eat this. I'm making the decision to eat this, even though I have been told not to." Right? And God has specifically said, "Do not do this," and they still did it anyways.
Or
in the same way, or you will die, right? They didn't get instant death, but they did end up dying eventually.
What would be the cause of their death?
Sin would be the cause of their death, because
and who
sin
dictates
entered
what's
the
a
world,
sin and
it
what's
became
not a sin?
impure. God.
Right. So God killed him.
Well,
he could have not made
because
that
he has to have
punishment.
Yeah, he has.
He could have been like,
okay,
hey,
but what type?
I don't want you to eat this. That's a rule. You have free will. You can choose whatever to do, but there will be consequences. And it could have been, all right, that's it. 2 days, now you got to live in the tree. You got to stay in the tree for 2 days. There you go. Punishment over. Lesson learned.
Well, okay.
Why be so harsh? Your parents wouldn't do that to you. They wouldn't cast you out of the house for eating a piece of fruit they told you not to eat, even if somebody convinced you to do it. So what kind of parent is that? Sounds fucked up. All the stuff that we covered today, man, like, he doesn't sound like a good guy. And if we're tallying that up against the sins that I've committed, I'm coming out looking like roses, man. I'm not denying that people believe in him, or that he is a subject of a book, or that a religion doesn't exist or anything like that. But even if I'm to take everything that you say as canon, like believe it all, he still seems like a fucked up individual.
Okay, but you're looking at this as like, okay, this eating a fruit is not that big of a deal, when God sees it as equal to murder.
then that's a tantrum.
right?
That's a tantrum.
But
That's
okay.
I don't want you to eat my fruit. I'm gonna kill you if you eat my fruit. Like that kind of shit. Like that's a tantrum. He can very easily, if he's all powerful, all knowing, and omniscient, he can just choose not to flip the fuck out when you eat a piece of his fruit, no matter how important it is. If he's infinite, all powerful, he can just make another fruit. He can just say, okay, wipe all this clean. I'm gonna make another situation where these guys don't eat my piece of fruit.
But that wasn't the point. The point was that he wanted us to obey him, and Adam and Eve decided not to obey him.
So now
That
he's
was the
just
whole
playing
point.
with toys in a sandbox then. That seems ultimately more
because
fucked up and sociopathic.
No, because again,
What other conclusion can I come to?
Well, okay. He doesn't have. This is going to be super hard to explain, and it's going to sound a little bit weird. He doesn't have the ability to stop us. I mean, he does. Like I said, he's all powerful, but he
can see across time and manipulate anything he wants.
Yes.
So he can do anything. So he can stop us. He can put things into place. Doesn't have to violate our free will.
Except the point is that he wants us to willingly choose him.
Or burn.
To willingly. Well, but that's the punishment, because if
all the babies,
like
all those dead babies.
What?
So a baby who dies.
Yes.
Have they sinned?
No.
But they don't believe in God, and they're not religious, and they haven't committed themselves to Jesus or anything like that.
Believing in God is not believing in God is not a sin. It's the fact
you said that not following one of the 10 Commandments was a sin.
Yes,
and one of the 10 Commandments is no other gods before God, which covers atheism. You agreed up with that.
Yes.
So are we still doing your hypothetical where we removed that from the 10 Commandments? Because that's not reality.
Okay, but you're putting in atheism. You're not saying that there is a God. You're saying that we as humans are God. We're the all-powerful
Nobody said that.
People here.
Nobody said that. Certainly not what I'm saying. I just don't have convincing proof that a God exists. So therefore, I can't presuppose anything in the Bible. So I'm not. I can't hate God. I don't believe he exists.
Okay, so then what do you believe is absolute? What do you believe is true? Like what is something that you put 100% of your belief in? Something that you hold higher than yourself, if anything.
That whatever I perceive to be reality exists. That's something that I believe.
Okay, so then you are saying that reality is your God. You either it's
what?
Again, it's hard to explain.
I'm just trying to conceptualize based on your question. I never really thought about it. I don't care so much. But I've not seen convincing proof that God exists, so therefore I don't necessarily believe in God. It's a lack of belief. You can't fill a void with nothing. So that doesn't mean I believe in anything. It just I just tried to name whatever it was that I think I believe. Like I whatever I think this is, I believe to be real. That's really the only definitive thing that I can say about belief if you're looking for any God up there. And I don't have a God. So you can't just assign me a God. Like that doesn't work.
Well, it's like I can't really explain it any better than I already have.
What I feel like you're saying is that you have to have a belief in a higher power to function as a human being.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's something that you hold hot, that you want. Okay, Let me try. Let me see if I can.
Is it that we all have a
I'm-
doctrine? Is that what you like?
Uh,
You believe that we all have a doctrine, that we thought like we have some set of supposed
No,
rules or guidelines
we
that
all
we
have
live life by?
we all have something that we value more than anything, right? So, like for me, if I said I value money more than anything,
Mhm.
right, and all I did was strive to get more money, then the money would be my God because I'm making that the center of my attention. Whereas if I make God, right, the creator of the universe, so I believe, right? Um, if I put
But money
God
is not a
there,
living sentient being,
no, but you are
nor did it
putting
write a
that,
Bible with a bunch of rules in it.
no, but again, you're putting that above God.
Then
So
you're like
anything,
trying to
uh,
make the
you're
definition of God your own, right? Seems like.
no, okay, but okay, again, I'm using this as an example. The money, all I strive for is to gain more money. Then that means that becomes my priority, right? If my priority is not to to follow God and to serve Him, right? Then it, then my priority, then I no longer, then God is no longer my number one. Does that make sense?
Right. But I don't have a God to begin with.
Okay, so then what is something you strive for and want to gain more of? Because you
Empathy,
said you're not materialistic, so it's not,
empathy,
you know,
knowledge,
empathy.
empathy.
Okay, so you strive
Strive
to
to have more empathy. I
build your
strive to
understanding.
understand people better. That's something I
Okay, so
strive for.
you're putting other people above yourself.
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, so then
I think my
by
own
that's
survival is more important than a guy that I don't know next to me.
okay, so then that means that you are the person you are trying to, that means that you are your focus, which in turn, based off of what I just described, means that is your quote unquote God.
Yeah, but you have to believe in God in order to even accept that. And I don't. So there's no God. There's no God without religion. God doesn't just exist out there in the wild. Like, you guys make him up
But
and then you
okay,
worship him.
when God said, when in the Bible, when it says that you shall not have any other gods, God is a title that is given to anything that is put in first place, that is your main priority.
Pretty sure that's not what it means.
Well, okay, let me put this into perspective.
It means you can't worship the Jewish God, or, well, not Jewish because it wasn't, you can't worship whatever, the Mesopotamian gods. You can't worship what are the Zoroastrian gods? You can't worship the Babylonian gods. That's what he was saying.
No, that's not exactly true. It's anything you put of first place. That's what the title God is being placed at there. If I have, let me put it to you in this perspective, as me being a Christian, my number one priority is God. That means that He takes precedent over my own life. If somebody came up to me and had a gun to my head and said, "Hey, denounce your faith or be killed," I would say, "No, I serve God, and no person from earth can pluck me from His hand," right? Then I'm dead. I can truly say that, God, I had no other quote unquote gods, because my number one priority was to serve God. And in your instance, your number one priority is your life. So you will do anything to preserve your life over the lives of others, which in turn means that that is your quote-unquote God, is yourself. Again, it's just a title. It's not that you are a God, right?
Right.
So,
And so you're saying that it didn't have anything to do with just him worshiping him. You said that if it's a concept, anything that you put before worship of him, all the rest of the 10 commandments, plus the laws that he laid out through the rest of the Old Testament, which we seem to be forgetting here, you know, the ones about slavery and about abortion and all that kind of stuff, then you're saying that that's the thing. It's a concept. It's all about if anything takes the place of God in your life, then that's a sin.
yes. I know that may seem harsh.
But what if you don't believe in God in the first place?
Then
falls
that
under the sin
means
category, don't it?
Yes.
Right. So in the end, through all these scenarios, me and a bunch of babies burn.
Again, baby, it's different. Babies
How?
don't
You're born
have
with original sin. You can't be Christian and believe that babies can just die and go straight to heaven. That's not how that works.
Like I said, when a baby is born, there's a specific period of time that they cannot sin because they don't understand what sin is. It's until comprehension.
What age?
4
months, 3 months, 6 months?
I would probably say up to...
Young enough to be indoctrinated?
I would probably say up to 12.
So you said no, so you don't think any babies, you don't think that any children die before the age of 12? You aren't concerned about that at all? Where do they go?
That's not what I said.
Okay, where do they go?
They go to heaven.
The ones, oh, I get it. On the other side of 12. Get what you're saying. That makes sense.
Yes. So 12.
I mean,
on the 12
babies
and beyond
are pretty
is
aware
where
of their surroundings within about like a few months, and
but they don't understand
words and concepts and sentences start around, I don't know, maybe like year and a half, something like that. When are they first going to school? When they can understand concepts and learn things? What age is that? It's like what?
I think
5,
it's like
6,
3 or 4.
3 or 4? There you go. Even younger than your projection.
I understand that, but I'm trying to get to the point where there's a point on where I don't know, this is my belief. I can't say this for sure, but any child before 12 years old goes straight to heaven because they don't understand the concept of right and wrong. It may be sooner than that.
Even if they outright murder someone.
If they understand, I would say, okay, let me change
so there
my
are exceptions.
thing a little bit. Yes. So let me change my thing a bit. Hold on.
It's getting harder and harder to believe in this book.
Hold on. I'm trying to explain this.
Let me just let you know, like I'm way over my stream time today, but just I'm willing to let you finish your thought, but just so you know, finish it, and then we'll probably have to part ways.
Okay.
Just wanted to give you a heads up.
If a child truly understands what the difference between right and wrong is, that is when God says, okay, now it's you choose me and you choose to follow me and have, and I will bless you, or you choose to reject me and you get the punishment of hell. That's what I would say.
All right. So let me just try and navigate through this real quick. So a kid is born. They don't know much. They're not born religious. By the time they're like, I don't know, 5 or 6, I don't know, 8, I don't know, old enough to stand and walk and carry a large butcher knife. And they Like, they otherwise, if they didn't have the butcher knife in their hand, nobody would have seen them as anything other than just an innocent child. Then they go and murder somebody just because they wanted to see what it would feel like. And that in a vacuum, without the repentance, that in a vacuum, would that mean that they go straight to heaven? Just
if they understood that what they did was wrong, then they would go to hell. But if they do not understand what they did was wrong, then they would go to heaven.
And then if they repent before the age of 12, when they can understand, when as you say, they're ready to accept the concept of whatever's happening, how can they repent? If they knew what they did was wrong.
Is just... What was that?
If they knew what they did was wrong, how can they repent if they're too young to understand the concept of God and innocence and right and wrong? If by the definition of this, they're too young to understand that concept, and yet they've still done something that's wrong and have not yet repented, how do they repent? They don't even know the concept of God at this point.
Well, okay, in that instance, then they understand that there is a person above them, or they understand that what they did was wrong, and they say, and there's this...
You don't just believe in God. And I don't mean God specifically. I mean, you don't just believe in a higher thing. You don't just believe in an overall concept. You're not born knowing that.
Actually, according to what I believe in the research and what the Bible says, I believe that when you start to comprehend what is right and wrong, you start to understand that, like, I mean, in the Bible it says that the law of God is written on everyone's heart. So therefore they understand that
it claims that people are born
there
religious,
is someone
but that's not true.
Who, well, again, so as Christians we use what the Bible says as truth.
A very loose guide, or no? Oh, but you can pick and choose what you agree with or choose to follow?
No, it's interpretation.
Oh, but it's all true.
Yeah. Yes.
How do you rationalize that? I guess that's where faith comes in.
Yeah, it's faith. That's the whole point, is that, okay, I believe that this is what God was talking about. That is the thing. So you don't believe that there is a God. So it doesn't make any sense to you because you don't believe that there's a God. For me, a lot of it makes
sense. I think saying that it doesn't make sense is really me poking fun at it. I think saying that it objectively doesn't make sense would be a more accurate thing to say. But I understand the concepts that I'm reading, and I think that's why I don't agree with them. And I think that's why I try to push back on them, because I think that if God were to be real, he's a fucked up individual, and I wouldn't want to be in the same room with him, let alone have him invade my child's mind. So,
again, that's the belief that you have, and God respects that, and he's going to let you continue believing that, right?
As long as I come to him in the end.
If you decide to truly say, hey, I was wrong, and I believe that what you said was true, and truly believe it, like saying, hey, like a genuine repentance, then it's and you truly intend that, like, I truly believe in this God, then you will be saved, no matter if it's on your deathbed, if it's 10 years from now, if it's tomorrow.
And if I don't, lake of fire.
Correct.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I have to leave, man. I appreciate it.
Okay.
You've been awesome. You've been very gracious, and you've defended your points with aplomb. So I compliment you on that.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I had a lot of fun talking to you. I kind of see this as like I don't want you to go down a bad path, and I know you don't believe it, but I'm doing this like it's hard. Like this may seem weird to you, but I'm doing this out of like brotherly love, you know.
No, I know. That's
So I have no.
whether I believe it or whether you mean it, it doesn't matter. It is what you believe, and that is
Yeah.
respectable.
And I respect your side of it. Um, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about this
Yeah,
and kind of like
absolutely.
you brought up a lot of good points that I'm gonna have to research now.
I would say because
Um,
I have always had it as a goal of mine, but I just have not been bored enough yet. But I would say read every line of the Bible and do the things that you see like in those, like in the movies or the TV shows or whatever, where you see all those hand scrawled like annotations and stuff. Like do that shit, man. Like that's the best way to learn all that stuff. And then maybe you can see some of the contradictions that I see. And if it makes you deconstruct or question, then cool. If not, that's fine too. As long as you keep learning, that's all that matters.
yep. I seriously do appreciate you taking the time. It's
Yeah,
been a
man.
minute since I've done something like this.
Hell yeah. We'll get back into it. You're good at
Uh,
it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I
All
will
right.
let you go though.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
All right. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right. Well, my gosh, we went over a half an hour, but like I said, I'm happy to go over. My mouth is so dry because I ran out of water about 15 minutes ago. It is like a desert behind my teeth. Well, thank you so much, guys, for stopping by, if you did. And if you are watching this at a later date, I don't know how I'm going to... I didn't record this one, so I don't know how I'm going to... There's probably an app for that. There's an app for that. All right, thank you so much. Tomorrow is Work Wednesday. I think we're going to be playing a zombie apocalypse game, so I haven't determined my profession yet, but it's still... We will work, I guess? On Wednesday, it's Work Wednesday. You know, there's always a new theme. Anyway, thank you so much. I've been Goose. Stream every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And plenty of things in the pipeline. Just, I burped right now. Just time needs to elapse. There you go. Bada bing. Thanks again so much. Have a great day. Wanted to come up with something funny to say at the end, but couldn't really